Greetings, world at large, Google and Facebook and all that kind of neat stuff. This is Satek Ananda here in the Body Juggling Zendo in Dallas, Texas, with Mary Moore, Fibromite.
Fibromite, that's it. Dynamite.
And her presenting question this week was about creating energy, creating a sensation of energy. Because as you said, your emotions tend to get worse when you feel tired. And I understand that anything, especially if we have historical patterns of emotional fluctuation, anything that pushes us near a boundary, whether that's physical stress, mental stress, low energy, too high of energy, some people get around like crazy stuff and it makes them feel frenetic, like the fair or something, some people can't take that. So we're going to go through several things today that are potentially energizing. The deal with you is you're hypersensitive, like me, like most people with fibromyalgia, you're hypersensitive, and what affects one person a certain way is not always going to affect other people, is very often not going to affect other people other ways. Like the work we do with the body juggling bar, there's a move where you're laying on your side and you're raising your legs, and it's like all obliques for me. But I always ask people what they feel, and some people feel it in the other oblique, some people feel it in their shoulders, and they can raise their leg all day long, So it's like every single body is different and interpolates our experience differently. So one of the things that I was just talking to her about was paying attention to her, the things that make her feel more energized and the things that possibly drain energy. And that means like foods, that means people that you're around, that means thoughts. Thoughts can be immensely energizing or draining. And we'll work with that some today with visualization, right? So we're gonna do some things with visualization that create the flow of energy. Now, of course, if you're not getting enough sleep at night, there's no breath technique you're gonna do that's gonna make you feel alive and awake, So you gotta look at your physical patterns as well. But also do not believe that just because your emotions feel funny, you have to act insane, okay? That we don't wanna set up a game where you're having to do all these things and jump through all these hoops so that you don't feel low in energy, because if you feel low in energy, then you break and you embarrass yourself at work or like whatever, right? The idea, and I really liked how you made this clear when we first started talking about pain, and you used the word pain management as opposed to like pain relief. Like it's one thing to pretend you can make somebody's pain go away, and it's another thing to know that you can shift someone's relationship to pain, to that sensation. And I've never pretended that anything I do is going to make anyone stop feeling emotions. Like that's not the point. You don't want to live life without emotions. It'd be completely meaningless. Ask people with lobotomies. Emotions are the spice. They're the crests and the troughs of the ocean that make all the tides happen, that make all the things. Like it's the movement. The emotions are the life. The key is not stopping emotions. The key is making a good, healthy communication between your body and your mind so that those emotions become notes of a song rather than, just like a buzzer or an alarm just going off that won't stop. And it's not hard to make that kind of shift, especially with practices like Tai Chi, yoga, Kundalini. We did Breath of Fire a little while ago. What did you feel in your body when you did Breath of Fire?
It felt pretty good. I mean, I felt warm.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely warms me up.
Heat is a good way to create the sensation of energy. Breath of Fire is definitely going to warm you up. I feel a growth of heat inside my body that expands outward, much like if you hold your breath, you can feel that tension expand the longer you hold it. Mm-hmm. The heat from Breath of Fire, I can feel that moving out. And if I do it for, more than 60 seconds or something, I start feeling like light shooting out of my fingers and stuff. It's a very, very easy, very quick way to amp the body's energy. If you want to do breath of fire, it's breaths in and out equally, really quickly, pumping the stomach like this. And you do it as long as you can. Don't pass out. When you stop, deep inhale, exhale, and let all of the sensation that you've generated in your body melt. Okay, you don't want to believe in the sensation, you don't want to resist it, you just let it melt. Okay, so we're going to do several things that are going to change your feeling of energy, tangibly as well as mentally as well as emotionally. And we're going to do a little Tai Chi, and then we're either going to move towards emotrance cognitive therapy type stuff or quantum touch physical release type stuff, and we'll see which one feels more important, and they might kind of blend together because that happens a lot when I work anyway. But we're going to take that awareness from Tai Chi into the space of healing. We often go there, anyway, but last time you did everything by yourself and you had an awesome experience. You tried creating that experience for yourself on your own and it did not work. Was that correct?
That is correct. I played the video at home and kind of looked at it a little bit, but kind of just try to follow your voice. Mm-hmm. And because I've had so much thought in my head and irritability and just stress of the time, I could not get into the moment of it. Mm. And I tried it another time, and I had a little bit more success with it later.
Good. Glad that you didn't give up. And the more times you do these kinds of practices, it's like carving a groove into a record. It becomes something that's easier to fall into. You do not have a daily meditation practice, correct?
I do not. I say that. When I come home in the afternoon or in the evenings, I go to my room, shut the door. I have carved out this time for myself. I was not doing it. And to be alone, shut the door, lay on my yoga mats and do at least stretches. But no, I have meditation. Some sort of moving something. But
that's better than nothing.
And I've not ever really done just meditation.
Okay, so we're going to start today with the simplest one in the world, and your homework is going to be to do this one every day for at least a week. Okay, and I want to know what it feels like, and then we can adjust from there. I call it the 60-second meditation. Sound like you can handle that?
Yeah.
It does take a little bit.
If I can't, my 80 days is real bad.
Right. It does take a little bit longer than a minute, but it doesn't need to. And the idea is that as you use this technique, you start really small and really short. You get more and more familiar with a space of allowing, a space of acceptance, a space of presence, rather than manipulation. Where's this thing going? What's that thing? And like trying to juggle all these balls. So the way it's going to work is you're going to find a very, very comfortable seated position, most comfortable you can find. Spine always wants to be up straight, and the way that I do that is I typically take a few deep inhales, let everything float up like a helium balloon, and then on the exhale I relax and let all of the bones stack on top of each other as you relax so that your spine feels balanced and floating. Inhale again, floating up. Exhale, melt into a balanced floating space. Now all we're going to do is we're going to count from 1 to 60. But on the 1, we're going to inhale. On the 2, we're going to exhale. On the 3, you're going to inhale. And on the 4, you're going to exhale. So we're going to do that all the way up to 60. And the only thing we're going to do is pay attention to the sensation of the breath as it moves in and out of the body. And we're going to notice any ideas that try to pop into the mind, and as soon as we notice them, we're just going to let them go and return to the counting. The counting is going to give you a focus to come back to. 1, inhaling. It's just odd numbers you're inhaling, even numbers you're exhaling. If that gets screwed up, it's no biggie. You don't have to keep it that way. What's important is each inhale, each exhale is 1 breath, going all the way up to 60, and you're just going to let the mind go, right? You're not going to try and keep thoughts away. You're just not going to fixate on them. You're not going to hold them. As soon as you notice a thought, just let it go. Ready?
You have to do 61.
Say what?
You have to do 61.
What?
Get the last breath out. 60's in, 61's out.
Okay, so what did that feel like for you?
Numbers.
Mm-hmm. That's not a feeling.
It felt good. It made me try to, adjust myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had good posture, and I noticed several little adjustments that were happening as your body knew it needed to release something. That's good. That's starting to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I had thoughts come up, but I was, successful at just letting them flow, just keep going. And then the counting does help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big fan of counting. I used to have a counting problem, known as OCD counting problems. So it definitely helps with, making, knowing, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm breathing, and I've got this, ache in my back. Well, maybe if I sit this way, it'll get better. I know that I have a bad problem with head forward posture, which makes my neck hurt really bad. Or
Right.
I have my head is up tall a lot, and I don't really know why. I don't really know why I do that. And so I've been trying during that time, and at other times I've been trying to, to kind of sink my head in more, get down a little more. So it definitely helps you just have a space to do that.
Very good. If you can just barely begin to let thoughts slip away, that's the beginning of being able to control thoughts completely. You do that, you practice, it gets easier and easier to let thoughts slip away. Then you can start telling them not to come. And when you turn them off, they stop. And then you can create really specific tunnels of experience that can move outside of time. You can do incredible healing stuff with it. You can do, out of body, remote viewing, astral journey type stuff if you want. I mean, there's no boundaries inside the space of the mind and spirit. But that's a really simple one.
That is really simple. That's meditation.
That's meditation. All meditation that's ever been invented is just artificial ways of controlling the mind. Every meditation is an artificial way of controlling the mind. And you want to experiment with as many of them as you can, because certain minds work better with certain tools of control. But the whole point of meditation is consciously controlling the experience of the mind. And then as you learn to consciously control the experience of the mind, then you can do different things with it. Like the corollary is in physical training. If I'm working with someone and they can't be still and they can't listen, I can't train them, right? So your mind's the same way. But if I tell someone, hold your hand out and don't move. Hold your hand sideways and don't move. I wasn't actually waiting for you. I was demonstrating stillness. Once a person can do something conscious with their body and then keep it there, now I can train them to do other things consciously with their body and then keep it there or move it, right? But you have to start by getting that control, and that's what meditation is. Every form of meditation is an artificial way of controlling the mind. Om, numbers, breath, sensation, whatever it is, it's an artificial thing we're putting in the mind to go, this is the center of our experience. And the more you practice creating a specific experience, the more tangible that experience becomes, and the more easy it is to create any other type of experience, right?
So it's like music instruments or anything else with lessons.
Very much. It's very much like a musical instrument, and meditation is your lessons. It's your practice. It's your practice. And if you have an instrument and you sit it over there, and the only difference is a musical instrument isn't making all this ugly, annoying noise all the time. If you're not blowing into it, if you're not banging on it, it's not doing that. The mind will keep playing itself, if you don't know how to control it. But then when you go in and get to lessons, you're doing very specific things, and they're going to be boring and they're going to be redundant. But those things are going to give you skills that then allow you to create music. Meditation gives you the skill of controlling the mind, controlling your internal experience. Then you can start making music with that experience once you can control it, right? The reason it's so difficult is because the internal world has no boundaries. So how are we supposed to control it? We don't know where thoughts come from. We don't know where they go. We'd have no idea how we keep track of them, where we put them, where memories are. Like, we don't have any clue. Okay? So how are you supposed to control that? You make shit up. So you start counting, or you visualize a flame in your mind's eye, or you follow your breath as it moves through your body. I mean, there's any number of ways. Pranayama is one form of meditation, and it's breath work, and there's countless ways of doing just pranayama, and that's one technique, right? There's visualization, there's sensation, there's shamanic journeys, which tend to be really fun and easy for people because it's just like storytelling. It's like closing your eyes and someone reading you a book, and you just like, you follow along with the story. Here's the key to that, though, and all of NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and it is the distilled wisdom of hypnosis, of hypnotherapy, into very small rules of communication. It's really the study of hypnotic language, but it allows you to make changes in the body and the mind like very, very quickly, that where it would take a long time to make a change, like getting someone to release the anger they have with their mother. You know, that'll take a long time if it ever works with like talk therapy, psychotherapy, whatever. With NLP, you can change things like that in a few minutes. And the basis of NLP is not that a trance state is a magical thing and we create a trance and that lets us be able to do magic. The premise is that we're always in a trance. Okay, we are always inside of a vortex that is like driving a car, reading a book, using a computer, watching a movie. Like, all of those things are trances, right? When you're driving a car, everything else doesn't exist for you because you've got to focus on the road. When you're reading a book, you're not thinking about the cats outside or the weather. You're absorbed in the book. All of those are trance states. NLP is just a very simplified way of understanding what the trance state is, inducing it in yourself or others, and then using that space to make changes in very, very quick, simple ways. Okay, sorry about the vacuum cleaner. All right, so we're gonna take this. I want you to do that every day for at least a week. 60 seconds. If you like it, you can keep counting. I usually go to 100 when I do it. You can count to 500 if you want. But what I want you to do is begin noticing that once you finish, initially when you finish, you're gonna wanna open your eyes and just be done, just like you did now. Start to let that time of when you're done counting and when you open your eyes and come out, start to let that time be a little bit longer and longer. All right, so like I finished my counting and I'm still gonna sit here and breathe and just relax and not control anything a little bit longer. Right? Each time, see if you can let that space get a little softer, a little longer, a little easier. Because what happens is we want to use that artificial focus to control the mind. The background is acceptance of that control. 1, 2, 3, 4. But every thought, every sensation that's coming up, we're accepting. Then, once your mind and your body get really used to the feeling of accepting, you can let go of the numbers. You don't need the focus because now you're already in that pattern of accepting. Each thought, each experience, when you accept a thought, it dissolves. You can't keep a thought in your head indefinitely, even if you try. If you don't try, every thought dissolves pretty quickly. And every sensation, if you accept the sensation, you feel it and follow it, dissolves really quickly. All right? It's only when we resist them or fixate on them that we hold on to them. And then they can connect. And that thought that we fixate on connects with that feeling. And the thought makes the feeling reminds of the thought. And that's the nature of an emotion. It's back and forth, right? So we just want to cultivate that space of accepting what we're thinking and feeling and noticing that it always dissolves. It always dissolves. And once you have a tangible experience that every thought dissolves, every sensation changes, you don't have a reason to fear them anymore. You don't have a reason to struggle with them anymore. Even if it's a negative thought, it's going to dissolve. So I don't need to fix it. I don't need to change it. I don't need to try and keep the negative thought out. You know what I'm saying? It's going to dissolve. And that trust is what will begin to allow you to feel like you need to flip out and slam a door or cry. But you don't actually have to do it, because you can sit with the feeling and go, oh, now it feels different. And now it feels different too. And now I can't even find it anymore, right? Every feeling that will happen.
It's the holding on of thoughts that can make your feelings be overwhelming.
Yes, Buddha said all suffering comes from attachment and desire. So we're either clinging to a thought, to a meaning that we've created, or we're afraid of it and we're repressing it, right?
So clinging to, I'm furious because you made me do X, makes you have the feeling of the anger, the furious,
yes.
And you just
and you believe you believe the meaning. You believe that they're
for hours.
Yes, you believe the meaning, they were wrong, and you'll play it over in your head how they were wrong. And every time you do that, you create the feeling again in the body, right? Emotions are the body reacting to the meanings the mind creates. So my boss is an asshole is meaning that you've given. You judged your boss, and now the body is going to interpret asshole. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to feel like, ugh, like assholes are not good. And now your body's feeling like that. That's going to remind you of that meaning. And that meaning is going to make you feel the feeling back and forth. If you just focus on the meaning alone and you don't worry about the feeling, like every thought, the meaning will dissolve. If you just focus on the sensation and you don't worry about the meaning, the sensation will dissolve. It's the relationship between those two things, fixating on this, feeling that, and fixating again. It's that ping pong that keeps it going, like you were saying, for hours. Now, in order to cognitively forgive someone, that can take 1,000,000 years for some people. And some people never get to a place where they can release the meaning they've created enough to forgive someone. That's just self-punishment. It's self-damaging, okay? One of my favorite books in the world is the 4 Agreements or whatever, you know, Don Ruiz. Nothing is personal, okay? Now, that statement isn't meant to be an objective truth and like, you know, going trying to fight arguments where this person actually said my mother and they were talking about, like, that's not the point of that statement. The point of that statement means if somebody does do something mean to you, it's because of their own shit and their own patterns and their own history. You're just an excuse to keep playing their same game of anger or repression or sadness or like we all have our own patterns, our own games. We're all inside of our own universe and we all bump into each other. And my patterns can affect your patterns if you let them. But if you know that anything I do to you is a reaction to my own story and my own patterns, right? And whatever perception I have of you is wrapped up in my own history, my own patterns, my own archetypes, and my opinions of other archetypes. Like you might have an archetype that my archetype doesn't like. You know what I'm saying? It's not your fault you have your archetype. Your archetype is in response to your family and your friends, your environment. Archetypes are the roles that we learn as we grow up to know how to interact in different environments. And we all have many of them. You have a different archetype at work. You have a different archetype with a companion. You have a different archetype with a friend, with a family member, right? And so much of the time, these conflicts we feel in life are two archetypes, not, you know, oil and water, like not getting along or whatever. And as long as you take it personally and you believe whatever that person did is about you and they're judging you, then you can spin that meaning and that story forever. And you will, and some people will never let it go unless the person themselves says, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Or you're good. Like people believe they need something from outside in order to forgive. And there's a practice called radical forgiveness, which is actually based on the Course in Miracles. And the whole premise is you don't need anything from anybody in order to forgive. And the beauty of that is when you forgive, your pain goes away, right? So your dad might have done something to you and you're angry at your dad your whole life. That anger is not hurting your dad. It's hurting you. It's poisoning your system. It's putting your system into fight and flight. You got cortisol all in your body. Your oxygen is being shunted out to the limbs to protect yourself or to run. Your internal organs are being starved. Your sugar and metabolism is all screwed up, so you're storing fat like nobody's business for protection, like to go into hibernation for winter. But when you can see that how your dad treated you had almost nothing to do with you because he didn't even know who you were. Like, you didn't even know who you were when you were a kid. You didn't even know. Most people hardly even know as adults, right? How your dad treated you was about his story and how his dad happened to treat him, how his other, relationships have treated him, how his wife, your mother, treated. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's wrapped up in all of those things. And when you see that and you can feel that it's not about you, it's so much easier to just go, I forgive you. You're doing the best you can, just like all of us. You're fucked up just like the rest of us. And there's no reason for me to be mad at you because you're screwed up. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that, it doesn't necessarily fix your father any, but it fixes the pain that you're creating inside of yourself, the tension you're creating inside of yourself. And the experience you had yesterday is very similar to it because the task itself was the task, right? Your ideas about wrongfully being assigned the task and it being on a Saturday, those are the ideas that were creating the stress, not the task itself. Make sense? Okay, let's get to moving because time keeps going. But we'll come back to this, and this is kind of what we're dealing with in the whole effortless being thing, is really learning to delineate between sensation, meaning, and awareness. Body, mind, and spirit. So this is sensation, just a feeling, but you didn't give that any meaning, did you? There's no, like, gym or whatever. If I touched you at certain other places of your body, you would then have meaning, right? Now you're giving it, now it's like, sensation is just information, right? It's just stimulation. Meaning is ideas, it's relevance, it's good, it's bad, it's judgments, it's all these things that is not bad. That's sensation. Meaning is, why is she touching me? Why do I like it? I don't like it. I don't think I like it. I don't think I want to be touched. All of that shit is meaning. That's mine, right? Awareness, on the other hand, is there's a sensation. Oh, there's meaning that's connected to that sensation. But here I am. There's a sensation and there's the meaning, but neither of those things are me, right? So awareness is witnessing. So you can have a thought, and most people, as we're having a thought, you become the thought. The thought is your world, and that's why it affects you so viscerally. But you can also have a thought like, pig is a thought. Now I can see the pig over there, and I can see me back here, right? That's witnessing. That's presence. Or I can take another step back, and I can look at me looking at the pig, right? That's another step back in terms of witnessing. So sensation, meaning, and awareness are the three keys that you're going to deal with everything that we do. You're either feeling something, you're fabricating meaning, and all meaning is fabricated, right? It's not about like this is right and that's wrong, like it's all made up. All meaning is fabricated. And then there's awareness. And awareness is like a camera. The camera just sees what's here. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't say your hair's pretty. It doesn't say you've got a pretty smile. It's not afraid of what's behind you. The camera just takes an impression, right? That's the way the subconscious mind works. It doesn't judge. It just receives, right? That's the realm we step into when we step back and we begin to witness. And as that counting you did, and then you could see the thoughts come and then go, you were witnessing. You were witnessing the numbers, which you were actively creating, and you were witnessing the stuff you didn't mean to create, and you're letting that stuff go away. And you're just focusing on that thing that you're creating over and over again. Make sense? Right. breath of fire again one time. Everything's up tall and straight. In and out, focusing on the navel, pumping from here. In and out, equal breaths. Deep inhale. Hold it. Exhale everything out. Notice what your body feels like. Notice what your skin feels like. And up. Feel energy. Up and down each arm. Back to the shoulders, front to the shoulders, the chest. Down the torso. Back. Booty. Down the outside of one leg. Up the inside of the other. Down the inside of the other. Up the outside. Okay. So how do you feel now?
I feel pretty good.
Does your body feel energized?
Yes, I'm definitely breathing more.
I'm breathing deeper. I feel like all of my skin, you know, it wakes everything up. Rub my hands together. Arms loose and floppy. And we're just going to let them raise. Imagine if you have strings connected to your wrists. Your shoulders are completely relaxed. And your arms are being raised like a marionette's arm. Just floating. And then let them sink the same way. And whenever we're doing chi, the wrists are always soft, and the hands are going to drag behind the wrists, just like a paintbrush through water. So as you come up, the wrists are soft, the hands come down. And then as you sink, hands back behind. And now the visual on this is imagine a wave pushing out of your chest, and that wave is going to push. Start with the elbows. That's going to raise the wrists. The hands are going to roll over the top of the wave, and then everything sinks down the back side of that wave. So every time you do this movement, you visualize this wave pushing out of the chest, raising the arms gently, shoulders stay soft, let the arms billow and gently roll over this wave. And now you're doing this. Right? Your shoulders are like almost not moving at all. I want those shoulders to move because that's what's going to energize them. From binding them. So what? Then we add the breath. So as we go up, we inhale. And then we just relax a little bit more on each repetition. Notice the softer you are, and the slower you move, the more you feel the space that you move through it. Now one hand comes in, and both hands can switch places. Exhale, switching back. And then start to notice the feeling as the hands pass each other. Good. Now we're going to take this movement, same movement, but we're going to twist the torso. So from here, there. Good. Now this is the basic of the motion called ward off, but we're going to make a ball. Okay. And then we make a ball. And this here. So the bottom arm is like you're throwing a frisbee. Top arm just sinks straight down. So this bottom arm unfold. Throwing a frisbee. Top arm sinks straight down. Right here. And ball. Other side. Ball. Go down. Now shift your weight. Your weight's on the right leg now. Ball here. Or sorry, it's mine on the right leg. Ball here. Shift this way. And obviously back to the top of the ball. The other way. Both things flip like this. Down. Back to the ball. Down. Ward off. Roll back. Keep going. Ward off. Roll back. Ward off. Roll back. Okay, so I don't know how easy this will be for you to remember it's in this way, but we're just going to continue because I think it'll be harder because we're underexposed.
I know this part from Tai Chi.
We'll finish it. Okay, so this is exactly, this is Grasp Verso, which is one small sequence in the form. Go there, and that's palm press. Yes, draw, and you roll back. Palm press. Draw, so shift, coming back. And You do it on both sides in 24 form. You do it on one side and down side. So every time you come to here, you start to shift forward, then you shift back as you're pushing from here. Roll back. And then go ahead and flatten. Roll over the ball and come back into the pool. And push out and slightly up. And soften, look over the ball inhaling. Exhale. Out and slightly up. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Hands flatten, float, on the ground. Move the ball on the other side. Okay. And then you roll off. Roll back. Back your ball. Roll up. Roll back. Inhale. Roll back and with palm press. And barely touch each other. Keep the arms soft. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more. And flatten. Lower the ball. To one push. Always softening more. Letting the body float like seaweed in the ocean. It's always more important that you're feeling space as you move through it than whether you're doing the movement technically correctly. Good. And on this side. I'm going to connect all of those together. Everything on this side once, then everything on that side. Roll off. Roll back. Palm press. Lower the ball. Then skim the water. Ball on the other side. Roll off. Roll back. Palm press. Lower the ball. Skim the water. Ball on the other side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Leave it. Exhale. Inhale. Inhale, the hands up to the sun. Palms face together, and you're going to imagine opening the rainbow to your head. You want the rainbow drip down over you. Ready to come in? Exhale, open the hands. The rainbow drip down. All over you, all through you, all the way from the side. And then start over. Inhale up through the center of the spine. Out through the crown. And open this rainbow and let it drip down all over you. One more time. Inhale, filling up. Okay, so real quick, partnership. It's going to play with the feeling of space. No matter how soft you are, slowly move it. Mm.
Wow.
all those goods on your body. Now let those same movements affect your own sensations the same way. And notice that they don't stop in the regulation of the body. If you have a feeling and you move it away from the body, the feeling continues to move. As you float, that anything that needs to stretch, stretch. Let that movement become a release physically, but also energetically, also mentally. Gently melting down to the floor. And the body let everything melt, drain down into the legs, let everything relax. Make the decision to accept every sensation. Every sensation is good. Notice what acceptance feels like. Notice how quickly every sensation changes into different sensation. How do you visualize acceptance in the mind? It's a simple line. Humiliating solution is dissolving boundaries, dissolving accept the distinction in everything about it. Notice what visual represents acceptance for you. And then remember that symbol. And to associate that symbol with this expanded awareness towards it. Stretch. Good luck finding ones the dog won't eat up. Monica wants to put a soft surface over the whole floor in here, which I think would be awesome. It wouldn't look as pretty, but it would be so much better for kind of stuff to do. So what can you tell me about that experience? No, and if there are no tangible words, that's awesome. That means we really got you in the open boundless.
I definitely, there at the end when we were talking about acceptance, first, unfortunately, a thought came into my head of want. I want so many things to be different. I want my body to be different. I want my circumstances to be different. I, want some people in my life to be different. And that's the first thing that came up for me. And I need to not want so much.
Attachment and desire.
Right, but it's very hard, particularly when you have body issues that like you're being assaulted every day. It's very hard not to want to be something different. And so accepting who I am is a really big deal, but it's very, very difficult. I accept who I am as a person, my personality, although I know there are probably things that need improvement like everybody. But my shell, my casing, all this stuff.
Your experience.
Accepting my experience of my life. This is my life. It's very, very difficult to get there.
Did you experience any acceptance inside of that space?
I visualized what it would look like to me. And the first thing that came to my mind was a dream catcher. Now,
I like that.
I don't really like dream catchers. I got one in the mail the other day from an Indian school that wanted my money. But that's the first, this symbol that came into my mind. And but it really kind of clarified down to me as like a silver bracelet with a feather hanging off of it. And the feathers are really important too, because, it's floating. It's being able to float within your experience.
So we're going to start working really specifically on your ideas of acceptance, because it's not complicated. People that have had lots of patterns of judgment, lots of patterns of pain, lots of patterns of chronic anything, have trouble imagining that. But acceptance is not a magical thing. It's not like enlightenment. Like you've got to work for years to stumble upon it. Acceptance is a decision. Right? When I got my tattoo, if I tried to resist what I was feeling, it felt like my flesh was burning off and I couldn't stay put and I had to move away. If I accepted what I called pain, but what in actuality was just intensity, intense energy. If I accepted it, then I could stay still and the guy wouldn't mess my shit up. You know what I'm saying? But if I resist it, if I let my body wants to pull away, wants to do that, then it would end up having to pull away. Okay? Acceptance is a decision. And it's a decision I had to keep making as it would get more and more intense, and I had to decide to accept it again. And every time I decided to accept, I could feel the energy begin to move through my system. While I was resisting it, it was backing up right in that one place, and it got so hot, it felt like my spine was like glowing. Right? But as soon as I accept it, even though it's what I would call uncomfortable, I can feel the energy move through. I can feel it moving. Okay? Acceptance is just a decision. You have to make it over and over again because it's easy to forget, but it's just a decision. You just decide to accept something, and then all of a sudden you stop feeling resistance. And Tai Chi is a perfect way to learn that, because if you're gonna like resist me, like that's almost all martial arts is they teach based on that, how to resist. Now push against me, that's how Tai Chi teaches combat. It's to accept, it's to dance. All I have to do is make a decision to move with your energy. And then this doesn't hurt. Oh, if I resist your energy, it's gonna hurt. And then like most traditions will tell you, you gotta make that part hard. You gotta make that part of your body hard and strong, right? But if you just accept it, now there's no problem. And once I accept it, I can direct it. I can redirect that energy, okay? So it's about learning to do this with our circumstance, to dance and move with it instead of this, okay? And all it takes is a decision, and then as soon as you decide, you become one with that experience. And once you're one with it, you can lead it, you can float with it. But even as you lead, you're not attached. So if that changes, it's not gonna hurt my feelings in it, you know? You're just like, I don't wanna go over here. And that is what your experience becomes like when you accept. It's like just like in contact improvisations, just like Tai Chi, push hands, just like Aikido. It becomes a dance, but you have to accept first in order to create that rapport. You know, like if you go somewhere and you try to dance, you've got to accept who someone is and step up and ask them to dance before you can dance. You got to accept your current experience exactly as it is, not how it wants to be, how you want it to be in the future, or how you remember it being from the past. You got to accept it exactly how it is, and then every way you experience it can become this dance, this harmonic, you know. And it's the same way some women can go through childbirth, and it's this incredibly liberating thing for them, and they don't remember any pain, you know, because they were so inside of it and accepting it, and the beauty of actually giving birth and the love they have for the child, that the pain is just it's just like the soundtrack. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't leave a movie and remember all the music you heard. The soundtrack is just in the background to create an ambiance. And that's what pain is like when you move with your circumstance, when you dance, when you accept that experience. It's like it becomes the soundtrack, you know. So we're going to start working with acceptance more. We're going to keep taking you deeper into Tai Chi because it's obviously important for you in the same ways that it was important for me. If you can remember that Grasp the Bird's Tail, that little sequence we did. So it's ward off,
forgotten
roll back.
how good I felt for the almost year that I did Tai Chi.
It's awesome stuff, man. So, and if you did it for almost a year, you probably got most of the young style form, right?
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Right, it's complicated.
It's been out of my head for a couple years.
24 form is much simpler. So you can learn it quicker. It's all the same movements, but it's not as long, and everything is balanced. So you do everything on both sides, including snake creeps down. So I can start teaching you that if you really enjoyed the experience of choreography. A lot of people do. Some people, it makes them think too hard and they never feel good enough, and so it's like, don't even worry about it. But in the process of Tai Chi, remember that it's far more important that you're soft enough that you're really feeling and you're aware of the space more than are my hands in the right place or the angle's right.
And that's one of the reasons I stopped doing it.
Right. Yeah, like Chinook is a martial artist and he teaches Tai Chi as a martial art. I'm a martial artist, but I'm also a healer, and healing is much more ingrained in my being than combat. And so I tend to teach Tai Chi from a Shandong perspective. I do a little bit of work with applications and show people like how effective these things of softness and flowing can be. But it's much more about the maintenance of body, mind, and spirit and energy to me. So I'm not really concerned with what angle people's stuff are at. I can look at them and I can see if they're floating. And my body can feel it. When someone's really connected and moving chi, my body can feel it. Like if you're in a pool and somebody's moving, you feel the weight from the movement. I can feel it, and as long as somebody's feeling chi, I don't care where they're anything is. It's like just make sure you're feeling the space, and then just like at the end we did a little bit of authentic chi, all that stuff. I
feel it over my heart.
Oh yeah. I wanted to ask you about that when I was doing the circle. What happened there?
I felt like there was kind of like something sitting on my chest a little bit. I mean, it just had a little bit of heaviness there, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna breathe. Yeah, but I mean, it felt like there was just a little extra something there, and it was really interesting.
Was that the only thing you felt while I moved around you?
No, but that was the most prominent thing.
Right, and that's what I was feeling too, because I felt a lot of stuff, especially when you're coming up by the neck of my head, because I have lots of back and neck history and injuries or whatever. I totally felt that. I felt a lot of stuff you did around the chest. It's always important to just notice what you're feeling and focus on those sensations.
So you can feel it when I'm doing it to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm not sure.
Totally. Energy feels like magnets to me. It feels like two magnets that either don't want to touch, so it's magnetic polarity, or, and it usually happens when I move away, there's this suction, this pull, right? And I've told you this, I don't think we've done it, but you feel it enough that you don't need to do it. I could teach someone how to stand soft, float like seaweed, close their eyes, I can start swaying. Within 20 seconds, they start swaying too. Because their body feels it. Whether their mind does or not, their body feels it, and it goes to entrain, because that's how all energy works, right? Resonance and entrainment. There's a frequency over here. This is going to start matching that frequency. Grandfather clocks, disembodied animal hearts in jars in labs with women's menstruation cycles. Resonance and entrainment is how all energy works. And so if I'm over here swaying, if that person is static, they're not going to feel it. They're not going to start swaying. But if I talk them into floating in that space where you can feel yourself gently swaying like seaweed, and I start moving back and forth with their eyes closed, they start doing this. And I actually worked with a guy at the Bulletproof conference who didn't believe in chi. He was like, why can't we prove it? Why can't we see it? Why can't we find it scientifically? He's like, I don't know, dude, but I can show you how to feel it. He felt it in like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I told him about the swaying thing, taught him how to stand there like seaweed, and I moved towards him, and before I even got to move backwards, he actually stumbled backwards. Like I moved towards him, and he got pushed backwards. He was like, "What the hell?" And it's energy, and every particle of energy has a magnetic field around it. Every magnetic field extends outward to infinity, mathematically. Every single magnetic field extends outward.
So we are magnets.
We are nothing but light and magnetic energy. And that energy gets created around the light, right? So like if you, like people think—
This is some science up in here.
Yeah, this is what the bleep do we know about, and then what was Stephen Hawking's book, The Brief History of Time, or whatever, best explanation of quantum physics. So, and we'll end with this, okay? So we're matter, we're stuff, right, okay? But if you look at the smallest stuff, then you find cells, and then you go inside the cells and you look at the smallest, like cells, mostly empty, it's mostly just water. You go inside the other stuff you go inside, and you find like particles and molecules, like all these different layers. You get all the way down to an atom, right? An atom isn't stuff. An atom is a little solar system of electrons, protons, and neutrons. It's like there's the sun, there's a nucleus in the middle, and then there's charged particles that move around it, okay? What is inside of an atom? Nothing. There's no stuff inside of atoms. It's charged particles that are magnetically propelled and pulled towards each other, doing this whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it's that magnetic polarity that keeps them being separate, that keeps the boundary there, right? So you stick a whole bunch of empty things, and the particles that make up the atom, they're not stuff either. If you go inside, particle isn't a thing. A particle is a spark of light, right? And they turn on and off, like pixels on a television. Pixels don't just come on, they're blinking. Pixels are doing this all the time. Particles do that all the time. When they disappear, science has no idea where they go. No idea. But then they come back, and then they come back. All it is light. It's a spark of energy. Nobody can explain where it comes from, but we have a lot of experience with how they interact with each other and how they work. Every one of those sparks has a magnetic field. So each of the protons, each of the neutrons, electrons, protons, and neutrons, each of them has a field. Each one of those fields mathematically extends to infinity. Now, whether you can feel like a molecule, like whatever, feeling is a different thing. Mathematically, that particle, that magnetic field, moves out in every direction as far as time and space exists. Every single particle. So we are swimming in magnetic energy, and light is the origination of it. Sparks of energy. And there is a field, it's called the field, actually, the 0-point field, which even in empty space, in a vacuum, out in the middle of nowhere, there's a specific amount of energy that you cannot subtract. There's energy in empty space. They have no idea where it comes from. It's completely everywhere, uniformly, and you cannot take it away. You cannot subtract it so that there's no energy there. Even inside a complete vacuum, there is still energy. And they've been working for a while on how to extract it. And if they ever figure it out, then we'll probably be able to have spaceships that travel at the speed of light, because it's an infinite source of energy. It's an infinitesimal amount of energy, but it never runs out. It never grows old. There's a great book called The Field by Lynn McTaggart that talks all about it if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Gotta go. Boys waiting to go to the fair. Gotta pick him up. Good work. I love how your nose is always red when you're done. That's energy right there. Good work. Hit me if you got any other questions, and you hit me if you got questions too. Peace.